Welcome back to Narayana IAS Academy for the daily news analysis. I know many of you are very much worried because of the rising tensions between India and Pakistan. So today when we are analyzing the newspaper, one news item is related to India-Pakistan situation, but we are not talking about the India-Pakistan war-like situation as such. We are specifically going to talk about the air defense system because recently we got a news that India has targeted the air defense systems in Pakistan at multiple locations. So it becomes very important for us to know what do we mean by air defense systems? Do we have such a system? And what's so special about them? Okay. So this is the first article that we are going to take from Indian Express page number 11. The second article that I've chosen for today is on MMR. Now this is very important, maternal mortality rate. And we have seen a really good progress in terms of MMR for India. So we'll study this article in detail. The third article that we are going to study today is India planning to retaliate if UK or United Kingdom goes for any kind of carbon tax. Recently we got a news that India and UK have gone for a free trade agreement. We have signed a historic free trade agreement. But after this agreement, now we are getting a news that UK might plan to bring in a carbon tax, and this may hurt Indian businesses, Indian economy to some extent, and we don't like that, and that's the reason Indian government officials are saying India might retaliate if UK goes for any such thing. So we'll understand what is this carbon tax specifically. And the fourth article that I've chosen talks about Rohingyas. So recently some petitions have been drawn to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has said something related to Rohingyas, whether they can be deported or they have to stay in India. So we'll understand that part. We'll understand first what is Rohingya, what's the crisis, the basic part, and what the Supreme Court has said in this article. Okay, so these are the four articles we are going to cover in detail as part of our daily news analysis. Now, before I move ahead with each of the article, look at this quote. Very important specifically for all the aspirants. Learn to let go of the things you cannot change. There are some things which are beyond your control. You can't control that. Many students are even nowadays saying, or especially today, many students were saying that is there a possibility that the date of examination might change because of the war-like condition and all. I would say don't think about those things which are beyond your control. Just keep on doing what's in your hand exactly. So let go of the things which you cannot change, which you can't control, which have no authority over. Focus on what you can change, what you can work on. Focus on your preparation. Okay, that is exactly what matters right now. Now, moving ahead, a notification about Narayana IAS Academy. Our admissions for the 1 year as well as 2 year courses are active. 2026 batch, 2027 batch, and all the details regarding the courses will be provided to you on the website. You can just use this QR code which is on the screen, and using that you will get all the details regarding these two courses. Now, without wasting any much time, let's start with the first article, which is about the air defense system. How this air defense system work is what Indian Express is talking about. Now, for us, for the preliminary examination, it becomes important. We should know about all these air defense systems. And for the mains examination, this topic becomes important because some of these things, some of these air defense systems, we have developed on our own. Some of them we have brought from other countries. Now, you should know the strategic importance of these weapon systems or these air defense systems for India's security. Okay. Now, look at this previous year question asked in the year 2021. How is S-400 air defense system technically superior to any other system presently available in the world? Now, they have directly asked about S-400. That year, S-400 was in news continuously, and they have asked about the technical details of this system, air defense system. Okay, so from this, you can get a brief idea about what kind of questions will be asked in the examination from even this article which we are discussing now. So what is happening exactly? In recent years, we have observed that many countries around the world, they've started using this advanced technology to protect themselves, especially to protect the sky, the airspace. And these technologies are called as air defense system. So your airspace, you're trying to defend that area. So there are some powerful tools which are used. It's not like there's only one weapon which is involved in this air defense system. It's a system all together. So let's say for example, Pakistan sends something very dangerous in our airspace. Let's say their aircraft is coming, their drone is coming, or let's say one missile has entered our airspace. Now, in that case, we have got one complete system. Now, this system will have multiple components, multiple units, multiple devices. So, those devices could be many things. I'll discuss that part, what all it includes exactly. But overall, we call it as air defense system. And this system is going to do three things. First, it is going to locate or detect what is exactly coming. It is going to track how it is coming. And after that, it is going to shoot that system. So detection, tracking, and then shooting it down, so that whatever missile was coming will not reach to the target location. Rather, in the air itself, we are going to destroy that missile, that drone, or that aircraft. Okay, so this is how we are going to provide the safety or security to our places like our cities, our military bases, our borders from any kind of attack coming from the air part. Okay, now you must have heard about S-400 Triumph, which we have taken from Russia. This name is very famous. We all know about it. Apart from S-400, we also have this IAI Harop, which we have taken from Israel. Then we have one system in the form of Akash QRSM, which India has developed on its own. Okay, and as I said, why we are reading about it? Because recently India has targeted the air defense systems of Pakistan. So in the Pakistan, wherever their air defense system is there, in many locations, Indian army or Indian armed forces, they have targeted those things. Okay, now see how exactly this system works. Simply we want to know how exactly it works. So there are three steps: detection, tracking and command control, and interception. First step is in detection, not interception. First step is detection. Now to detect if something is coming, you would need some units, like you need some radars, you need some sensors. Now these radars which are going to send some waves, those waves will come back and you will know that there is something which is coming in our airspace. You will have the sensors which will be scanning whatever is there in the sky, and they will find out if there is anything suspicious in our airspace. Now we can also make use of some kind of satellites over here. So we will have, see, radars, we have electro-optical sensors, we have infrared sensors, infrared devices, we have satellites we are having. We can make use of these satellites or satellite images to get some kind of early warning regarding these suspicious activities. Okay, now once something is detected, the second part comes with respect to tracking. So something is coming, so you need to track its trajectory. Once you know that there is a threat, this entire system is going to work in such a way that it will try to understand the speed of this object. So there's an aircraft, they'll try to check what is the speed, in which direction it is moving, whether it is really dangerous or it is not that dangerous. Everything will be calculated, and for that you need this command control. When we talk about command control, it will include many special computers, artificial intelligence, algorithms, using which some quick decisions are made, because you don't have enough time to make manual calculations and manual stuffs. So quick decisions are needed. That will be done in this second step of tracking and command control. Okay. Then comes the third stage of interception. Let's say if the threat is real, the system, the entire air defense system becomes so much active that now it is going to launch a missile or any kind of weapon towards that aircraft, towards that drone. and it's going to destroy it completely in the air itself. It will, this missile or this aircraft which is coming will not reach the target. We will destroy it before. Okay, so this is how we say that these air defense systems are working, or they exactly work in this particular manner. Now this is what we know till now. Now when they are going to target, I said it, the object which is targeted could be anything. It could be a drone, which we call as unmanned aerial vehicle. It could be any aircraft. It could be any missile. Now that missile could be your cruise missile or ballistic missile. And there's one more thing which we call as loitering munitions, although I'll discuss this part later on. But it is somewhat a combination of a missile and drone. Okay, a combination of missile and drone is what we call as loitering munitions. Okay, we'll discuss that part, don't worry. All these can be tracked, all these can be traced and intercepted or destroyed completely. Now comes the point, do we have any such air defense system with India? So yes, we have already some air defense systems, some different components we have bought from some other countries, some we have made on our own. For example, you talk about Akash missile. So Akash missile, QRSM, these are developed by India, by Indian scientists. Then we have Barak 8. Now this Barak 8 is made by Israel. So where is it mentioned? Let me check. Okay, doesn't seem here. So we have, yes, we have Barak 8 missile system. Now this Barak 8 is made by India as well as Israel, and it is used by our Navy, our Air Force. S-400, I told you, we've taken it from Russia, and it's one of the most powerful systems in the entire world. Okay, you can't beat S-400 so easily, because it can stop even the long range missiles, even the stealth missiles. Some missiles which are claimed as having stealth technology, even those could even be stopped using this S-400. This is what the claim is. Okay, then we have got this Prithvi air defense, advanced air defense. All these systems we are using. Okay, for fast and close attacks, India is using something called Python and Derby system, which we have taken from Israel. Okay, now out of all these systems, Akash, this surface to air missile, this which I said QRSAM, that is quick reaction surface to air missile, Barak 8, S-400, Prithvi, this advanced air defense system, surface to air Python and Derby system. Now at last we talk about one more thing, Israel Aerospace Industries Harop drone, IAI Harop. This is very important. IAI Harop drone. It's a very special weapon that we are using, and I'm calling this one as the loitering munition, which I discussed just now, that it is a combination of drone and missile. It's a new thing. Sometimes people even give it a name called as suicide drone, or even they call it kamikaze drone. Suicide drone or kamikaze drone. Why this name? Because this drone is going to fly over an area, and it's not going to attack anything directly. First, it will just move in that area. It is going to search the enemy. So if there is any aircraft, any drone or anything, it's going to search using those radar signals. And once it locates something, once it finds out something, now this drone is going to crash it into them so that it can destroy. So some kind of suicide this drone is committing. So such a system we have, loitering munition or suicide drone or kamikaze drone, in the form of this IAI Harop, and this we have taken from Israel. Okay, now we have such a good system, and recently we have used this system, this IAI Haroop, this is the same system which has been used by India in this recent fight between India Pakistan, wherein we have targeted some of the locations in Pakistan using the same system. Okay, so you can remember this. Now, moving ahead, what is the importance of these air defense system for India's strategic interests or India's strategic perspective? So, see, obviously, air defense is very important when it comes to India's safety. First of all, it acts as a some kind of a warning to all the enemies, so that if they try to attack us, they will be stopped in between. So, some kind of warning we are giving. Second thing you need to understand that when we talk about modern warfare, see, nowadays the war is not same as that of what kind of war we used to see earlier. Now the warfare has become modern. In the modern war, we do not just use bullets or bombs. It also includes many other systems. For example, we may use cyber systems, artificial intelligence for making those quick decision making, and even this air defense system is one of the part of it now. That means any country going for this modern warfare will certainly use this air defense system. You can't run away from it. And third thing is that India has very tough neighbors, very tough borders. We have these border issues which are really tough for any country to sort it out very easily. Okay, and that's the reason we say that such a strong air defense is actually needed for India, and we need this in both sides, in the western borders and in the eastern borders. So we can talk about the regions of Punjab and Rajasthan where it is needed, and also in the regions of Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh, that is our eastern front. Okay, so this part we have to understand that this matters to us. Now, just like any system will have some kind of challenges, we face some kind of challenges when it comes to these air defense systems. First thing, these systems, let's say you are buying S-400 from Russia. Now it costs, it's a very expensive kind of a system. So the cost matters. Then the threats are changing very fast. See, even if you have got air defense system which is very strong, but let's say the other country has hypersonic missile. Those who do not know about hypersonic missile, the speed of hypersonic missile will go way above the speed of sound, right? We have something called subsonic which has speed less than Mach 1. Less than Mach 1 is called as subsonic missile. Something having more than Mach 1 is called as supersonic. And we are, if the weapon or if the missile is having the speed which is more than Mach 5, in that case you can't even imagine when the missile came and hit the target. You won't even see it. Such a speed, such a missile is called as hypersonic missile. If the other country or enemy is using hypersonic missile or any missile having the what we call as stealth technology, stealth technology specifically used to ensure that nobody can detect your weapon, your system. The radar system cannot even understand what is exactly coming when it has entered our airspace and all. So when other countries using such things, it becomes difficult even for our air defense system to stop everything that is coming to us. Okay. And third thing, we need all our forces, army, navy, air force, all of these need to work together to use these systems in a proper manner, and this is going to be a bit complex because army, navy, air force, to a good extent they are working very much autonomously and independently. We have to bring them in a coordinated mission. We have to ensure that all these systems, they are working in a coordinated manner. So all these three challenges will certainly be there. The logistical complexity considering the integration of these forces. Okay. Now, as a solution, or let's say instead of solution, I can call it a kind of way forward. India is certainly trying to make more of these systems at home. We know that we talked about this Akash system, QRSM, And it's also working to improve the cooperation between different military branches. So India is even talking about theater command system. So you must have heard about theater commands, wherein all our forces, Indian Army, Indian Navy, Indian Air Force, all three are coming together. So we have special theaters. So instead of having one battalion of one army, instead of that, we are bringing commands, theater commands, wherein all three branches come together. And the last thing is India is investing more in the space-based warning systems, and AI is anyway being used right now. So using this AI, working on this theater command, working on indigenizing the technology, all these things would be the right way forward with respect to this air defense system. That's it. Okay. So that's it when it comes to air defense system. I hope you understood the entire article. Let me check if we have any doubts asked by the students or anyone. Okay, so I don't see any doubts as such till now. Great. Okay, so let's move towards the next article. Article number 2, it talks about MMR, maternal mortality rate. Okay, you should know what is this term. For the prelims it is important, for the mains also it is very important. In many of your answers you can quote the MMR data directly. Okay, it's part of your social justice. Obviously vulnerable sections, any schemes from government side regarding vulnerable sections, so MMR becomes important. Now please read this previous year question asked by UPSC in the year 2016 to get a brief idea about the kind of questions that are being asked from the same theme or same topics. Okay, I'll give you 5 seconds. Please read this question. Done? Now, moving ahead with the article. So, if you observe in recent years, or specifically if you see this news claims that India has made some progress in terms of this MMR, maternal mortality rate. So, it actually talks about saving the lives of mothers during the pregnancy or childbirth. We got this recent data from Office of the Registrar General of India. Okay, and they are saying the MMR in India is declining. Now, obviously, we need to know the basic part. What do we mean by MMR? Now, here, maternal mortality. When we use the term maternal, maternal simply means something related to a mother or something related to pregnancy. Okay, and mortality means death. So anything that happens to a woman during pregnancy, during childbirth, or shortly after giving the birth, all that will be part of this maternal thing. And because mortality means death, so we are actually talking about death. So when we talk about maternal mortality rate, we are telling how many women are dying due to either pregnancy or childbirth, and this we calculate. When we calculate this data, the number that we take is 1 lakh live births. So let's say in a particular time, let's say we are calculating for last 6 months or 1 year or whatever, the time period could be anything. In that time period, let's say 1 lakh live births are taking place. So for these 1 lakh live births, how many women are dying due to pregnancy or childbirth related problem? Okay, so it is going to count those deaths that are happening while the woman is pregnant. or let's say the pregnancy has been ended, it has been terminated. So after this termination till the next 42 days, in this time period we actually count how many women have died. Okay, now when we talk about this thing, I said women dying due to pregnancy or childbirth related issue. So let's say some women might die because of some kind of accident or any other reason but not related to pregnancy. Then we are not calculating those women, we are very specific about it. We'll just talk about women dying due to maternal stuff. Okay, now if we see the data over the years, India's MMR has been declining, is going down very much steadily. So if you see the data, the time period 2014 to 16, the number is 130. In 2016-18, it has become 122. Then it becomes 113. Then it becomes 103. And 2019 to 21 data, it is 93. Okay. So we have a very steady decline in the numbers of maternal mortality rate. You can observe, if we see the trend, we can say that it is somewhere around 28.5% of drop in the maternal deaths in the last 6 years, or the span of 6 years, somewhere 28.5 or 28.6% of drop. Very good, no problem, you're happy with it. Yes. Now if you see the data further, data by the age group. So if we look at the age of the women who are dying, in that case, the highest number of death happens in a particular age group. So the first one is 20 to 29. In this age group, maximum women are dying. And the next highest is 30 to 34. Now, is this a good news? I don't think it's a good news. These are the ages when most of the women, they have their children. So you see, 20 to 29, this is the real age group when women go for this childbirth, right? And this shows that even during the most common years for having these babies, actually many women are still at risk, and we need to have take care of these women. We need to provide some better care. Okay, now if you see the data further, then we talk about the high burden states. So here you can see Madhya Pradesh 175 mmr. Now this is more than the national average. All these states, if you observe, they're way above the national average. So what was the national average? It was 93, and now these 175. Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh 151, Odisha 135, Chhattisgarh 132, West Bengal 109, Haryana 106, right? So from this observation, we understand that these states, they need more support to improve their maternal healthcare services. We need to focus on these states particularly, and to reduce these numbers. See, we have seen this decline. That means certainly government must have taken some steps or some initiatives which are actually working over here. So one of that initiative is Pradhan Mantri Surakshit Matritva Abhiyan, a kind of campaign. So here actually government is giving free health checkups to all pregnant women, and there's a specific day in the month, let's say the 9th of every month, on which this checkup will be done. And this helps doctors to find out the problems at the earliest age, or at early, we can say, and they can treat it. If you know the problem early, you can treat it obviously easily. Then there is an extended version of the same thing, which is called as extended PM SMA strategy. Extended version of the same. Okay. Now here, what government is doing is they're focusing on women who are having some high risk pregnancies. So there are some health workers who are going to visit them very much often, and the women are given some financial help. So some special attention we are trying to provide to these women. Okay. Then we have Surakshit Matritva Ashwasan, Suman in short. We are talking about Ashwasan, means some kind of promise the government is making. Now this Suman program, it promises some kind of free safe and respectful care for all pregnant women and newborns in the government hospitals. So actually what they do is they ensure that no service will be denied to these women. Okay, that's the core thing. Then we have Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. Janani Shishu Suraksha Karyakram. So here we provide free delivery services. We also provide free transport to the hospital, medicines, tests, food. Even if let's say blood is needed, that blood will also be provided here free of cost. Okay. Then to improve the care given during the childbirth, government has this Lakshya, labor room quality improvement initiative. So here we are making labor rooms, operation theaters. We are trying to make these things better in the hospitals. Okay, so this happens. Then we have Village Health Sanitation and Nutrition Day. Okay, so village health sanitation and nutrition days, these are held regularly in the Anganwadi centers, and on these particular days mothers and children, they can get some kind of health checkup, they can get some kind of nutrition advice, and they can learn about how they can take care of themselves during this pregnancy or during this period overall. Okay, so these are the schemes which are working, and we can say because the numbers have declined, that means these schemes are certainly working to some good extent. Okay, good. We're done with the second article. Let me check if we have any doubts now. No? Okay, fine. Now we have third article. Now this one is talking about carbon tax, or to be specific, carbon border adjustment mechanism. So the topic is important for prelims as well as mains, considering the bilateral relationship between India and United Kingdom. Now you can read this previous question asked in the year 2021 about blue carbon. If they can ask about blue carbon, they can ask about carbon tax also. They can even ask about the CBAM mechanism, to be specific, which already exists. Okay. Just give me 1 second. Maybe we have some technical glitch. Okay, so thank you for your patience. Now see, in this third article, we're talking about India and United Kingdom. What happened recently, India and United Kingdom have signed a trade deal, or which we call as free trade deal agreement. It's a good news. But now a new problem has come up wherein UK is saying that they might bring in carbon border management, carbon border adjustment mechanism, in short CBAM. So it's a kind of carbon tax which they are saying that they might bring in this carbon tax. Now see, what do we mean by carbon tax? We need to know this. Let's say if a product is made in such a way that it leads to a lot of pollution. So you talk about steel, you talk about cement. When you produce cement or steel, you will see that a lot of pollution, lot of carbon emission will be there. Now let's say such a product is being imported into United Kingdom. Now what United Kingdom will do, they will put an extra tax on them. Now that tax is your carbon tax. And why this will be done? Because they want to make sure that the foreign products or foreign goods, they do not get any unfair advantage over the goods made in the United Kingdom. Because see, in UK they are following a strict climate rule, so other countries might not be following that, so they might get an unfair advantage in the trade because they don't have those strict climate rules. So to ensure a good trade balance, UK is saying we will put a carbon tax. And there's a plan that UK is planning to start such kind of a tax from January 1st, 2027. 2027, January 1st. They are planning to start such a tax on many products. So it would be applied to steel, cement, aluminium, fertilizers, electricity or hydrogen and all those things. It can be applied. Now, while UK government is saying that this is a good thing that they are doing, which will be useful to fight against the climate change, many countries in the world, especially countries like India, they believe it is a way through which actually developed countries are putting some kind of trade barriers. Okay, and this is not fair towards the poor countries or developing countries who are still growing. They're not in a position to meet those strict climate rules in their country. Okay, and India is especially worried because India believes that a system like CBAM, see, already EU has brought such kind of thing called CBAM. And if there is something called CBAM, it is going to break an important idea. That idea is of CBDR, common but differentiated responsibilities. We said that our responsibilities are differentiated. Developed countries have more responsibilities, developing countries have less. But this CBAM or carbon tax goes against this principle or idea of common but differentiated responsibilities. Okay, so that means not all countries are equally responsible for climate change, but now everyone will be punished in the same manner. And India says this tax doesn't respect this idea and we don't like this, and it is going to hurt Indian businesses. So Indian exporters are actually afraid that if this tax will be put on their goods, their products will become more expensive in the United Kingdom. Okay, we have done a free trade agreement and still our products will become expensive over there. So this is a big problem. This is a big problem for, especially for the small companies or the workers in the industries like textiles, cloths, leather, which already have very low profit and very limited money to make their factories more eco-friendly. Okay, so what India has done recently, India has warned that if United Kingdom does not offer any kind of exception to the CBAM, because CBAM they'll apply for all the countries, right? It's not like they'll put on India only, but India is saying if you don't offer any exception to India, then India will fight back, India will retaliate. India might bring its own carbon tax and use that money for its green plants. So we might put carbon tax on Britain, let's say. That is possible. And if you study this particular deal, this free trade agreement which was done over here, you will observe that in this particular deal itself, there's something called rebalancing mechanism. Okay, there's something called rebalancing mechanism, and this mechanism allows India to ask Britain to make some kind of changes or provide some kind of compensation if this CBM or carbon tax is going to hurt India's economy. So these legal battles might be there. If you ask experts, they are also saying that India needs to be very careful in any kind of future talk when India is going for any trade deal with any country, any developed country. We should be very careful because these developed countries or rich countries, they're starting to use these rules like carbon tax and all, and they are going to target you. they're going to put some kind of restriction on it. And these could create problems for India later on. Okay? In the end, we can simply say that India's challenge is to support the fight against climate change, but it's also to protect the economy. We have to balance both climate change as well as economy. So we don't want climate policies to be used as some kind of a tool to block Indian products. This is something we don't like. So it's a kind of barrier that is being put over here very smartly by developed countries, which India doesn't like. Okay, so that's all. That's something you need to be aware of. Okay, this is all about this CBAM or carbon tax. Now, the last article is about Rohingyas. You must have heard about Rohingyas way back, 1 or 2 years back, 3 years back. You must have heard about it, obviously. Now, in recent times, there has been a lot of discussion about Indian government's decision to deport Rohingyas, Rohingyas who are refugees over here. So there are some people who have filed a petition in the court. They said that, sir, sending the Rohingyas back to Myanmar, this is going to put their lives into danger. We should not do this. They also said that this decision, it might go against the international human right promises or commitments that India has made, right? But recently, the petition which was made in Supreme Court, here Supreme Court said something else. Supreme Court is saying if the Rohingyas are seen as foreigners, so in India we have something called Foreigners Act. In India, we have got this Foreigners Act of 1946. If under this act, if Rohingyas are seen or designated as foreigners, then in that case, government has the authority or has the right to deal with them under this law. Under this law, if they want to deport them to Myanmar, they can do this. Okay, that means these refugees, this refugee law will not actually be applicable. We don't even have any direct refugee law, any umbrella law as such. So this makes this issue very much complex or complicated. Okay, now see, you can read this previous year question about the Amnesty International. Okay, here we talk about human rights. So human rights remains in news, international conventions remain in news. Rohingya crisis is very important for us. For prelims, it might be important, but for mains, it becomes way more important, I'll say. Because when we talk about India-Myanmar relations, India-Bangladesh relations, somewhere there will be a talk about Rohingyas. Now, first of all, who are these Rohingyas? So Rohingya is a Muslim group, Muslim minority group living in Myanmar. So if you see Myanmar, in Myanmar there is one state or one province with the name called Rakhine. These Rohingyas, they belong to this Rohingyas region or this Rakhine region or Rakhine state of Myanmar. And they are a minority group. If you see Myanmar, in Myanmar, Muslims are in minority, especially they are living only in this region. And for many years, they have faced a lot of violence, a lot of discrimination in their own country called Myanmar. What happened in the year 2017? In 2017, there were a lot of attacks on Rohingyas. Many were killed, and this was happening in Myanmar itself. At that time, many Rohingyas, they ran away from Myanmar and they reached out to the nearby countries. So Myanmar has border with, or this Rakhine province has got border with Bangladesh as well as India. So many people came to India, came to Bangladesh. Now, we are concerned about India, obviously. Now today, if you see right now, India is home to around 40,000 Rohingyas who are living mostly in Jammu, Hyderabad, Delhi NCR, Mewat. And out of these 40,000, we can say only 14,000 are actually registered, officially registered with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, UNHCR. With UNHCR, you try to register that you claim that you are a refugee, you are seeking refugee status over there. So only 14,000 are registered. Rest of them are not even registered here as refugees. Okay. So recently, the Supreme Court heard this case about whether India should deport these Rohingyas or allow them to stay in India. In that case, people who filed the case, they argued that since this UNHCR has given them refugee status, they should not be forced to return to Myanmar. Because even if Myanmar is their home country, but when you give this UNHCR, when UNHCR gives them refugee status, it is Indian government's responsibility to keep them in India. But Indian government explained that UNHCR's recognition is not legally binding in India. First thing, it's not legally binding in India. And that's because India has not signed the 1951 Refugee Convention. So you see, this 1951 Refugee Convention or 1967 Protocol, India has not signed any of that. Now these convention or these laws, these are actually international agreements that try to protect refugees. Now you may say, sir, if we have not signed, then we are not obliged to do this thing, we are not obliged to keep these refugees. Even if India has not signed these refugee agreements, still India is expected to follow one rule, one principle. That principle is called as principle of non-refoulement. This is very important. Principle of non-refoulement. Now, this principle says that a person should not be sent back to a country if that person is going to face some kind of tragedy, some kind of torture, some kind of danger. Let's say you know that if you send this person back to Myanmar, this person is going to die. Then you should not send such a person to that country. This is the principle of non-refoulement, which is very common in the international conventions, and at least at the international level, this is the expectation from the countries. But India does not have any special law, any national law which deals with the refugees. Instead, what we do is we handle the refugees, each refugee case individually. Okay, so there is some problem when it comes to handling refugees in India. We don't have a law, neither government is showing any interest in bringing any such law. Okay, now how we deal with refugees. So refugees are treated under some general immigration laws. For example, we have Passport Entry into India Act, we have Foreigners Act 1946, which I talked about. Now we have such acts, okay, and these acts are going to deal with these refugees. Now specifically under this Foreigners Act of 1946, Indian government has complete control over who can enter India, who can stay in India, who can be removed from India. And this authority is there with the central government. And this law does not make any difference between a refugee, an asylum seeker, or let's say any illegal immigrant. So they can actually send back anyone, even if you are a refugee, even if you are illegal immigrant, even if you are asylum seeker, I'm saying. Okay, so it is actually treating everyone as foreigner. Okay, so this is why it becomes concerning. But there are some arguments. There are some arguments that India has got Article 21 in the Constitution, Article 14 in the Constitution. Can you go against that? So, for example, Article 21, it gives the right to life and personal liberty. Article 14, it gives the right to equality before the law. So, some people have argued that Rohingyas, they are being treated unfairly, especially when compared to other refugees. So, there are refugees coming from Sri Lanka also, some Tamilians, or there are some refugees which have come from Tibet, or let's say we had the CAA law. So when you look at all these things, why are you treating these Rohingyas differently? This is the question. Because you see, when we talk about Article 14, right to equality, this law even goes to the extent of saying that this will be applicable even to the non-citizens. Interestingly, Indian Constitution gives some right to the non-citizens also. Okay, so this is the major issue, and many experts believe that India needs a proper refugee law. Right now, the way refugees are treated It actually depends on each case, and this can lead to some kind of confusion, some kind of unfairness from the executive side. And recently, the Supreme Court even said that any foreigner who is staying in India without any proper permission, they can be deported. Even if they are recognized as refugees by UNHCR, even they can be deported. Okay, so we can say India needs to find a balance between protecting its national security as well as respecting international human rights, because our national security is also important for us. Certainly, we do care about international human rights laws or conventions or the principles. Okay, so that's all about this fourth article. Now let's talk about the practice questions. So we have this means practice question. Discuss the strategic significance of air defense systems like S-400 and IAI Harop in strengthening India's national security. Highlight the key challenges in their deployment. Okay, now you're in a position to answer this question. Initially, we will start with the air defense systems. We'll give the examples of S-400, Harop. We can even talk about other systems. You can even briefly tell about these systems, what special things they bring in. Now, after that, we talk about the strategic significance. So they bring in some deterrence, precision offense, then hybrid warfare readiness. All these things can be mentioned. And in the conclusion, we can tell. Now, before conclusion, I think we can even add those challenges part, which is missing in the slides. But we can bring in all the challenges that we are going to face. For example, that cost part which I talked about, or we need to bring in all the forces together, all these parts. We can mention that part and we can conclude. Now, some questions from the daily news analysis of yesterday's articles or yesterday's DNA. First question, with reference to missile systems inducted by Indian Armed Forces. Hammer missile is developed by MBDA and is primarily used for air-to-air engagement. Now this is absolutely wrong. Neither this is made by MBDA, neither this is air-to-air engagement. Wrong. Scalp is a long-range cruise missile equipped with terrain-following guidance and stealth features. That's true. BrahMos cruise missile uses ramjet propulsion and has subsonic. This is wrong. It's not subsonic speed. It's actually supersonic. So this is wrong. This is wrong. Only 2 is the right answer. Okay. Then with reference to impact of climate change on human health. Increasing atmospheric carbon dioxide levels can reduce the concentration of micronutrients and proteins in staple crops like wheat and rice. That is true. Changes in diet due to climate-induced food insecurity may disrupt the human gut microbiota. That is also true. Gut microbiota diversity has no established link to metabolic or intestinal health. This is wrong. See, there is a link. That's what we discussed in the article yesterday. And fourth, climate change induced dysbiosis may contribute to an increase in foodborne diseases in low and middle income countries. This is true. So 1, 2, 4. B is the right answer over here. Then with reference to international collaboration in space missions, consider the following statements. Proba 3 mission intended to study the sun's corona is jointly developed or operated jointly by ESA and ISRO. This is absolutely wrong. It's not a joint operation, joint mission as such. It's a mission by European Space Agency only. India has actually, or ISRO has helped in only the launching part and all. So this statement is absolutely wrong. Chandrayaan 3 received ground station support from European Space Agency during its mission phase. That's true. Gaganyaan involves technological collaboration between ISRO and ESA for human spaceflight communication support. That is also true. 2 and 3 is the right answer. Okay, good. Now some homework for you people. For today's articles, these are the questions. Please pause the screen, read the question and try to attempt it. Okay, you can use the link provided in the comment box, in the description box also. So click on the link and the question will be opened up. You can attempt it. You'll even get the answer right away. Okay. Otherwise, tomorrow we are going to discuss the answers anyway. So the first question about maternal mortality rate. Pause the screen, attempt it. Second question is on Rohingya refugees. So take your time, pause the screen, attempt. And the last question is on carbon border adjustment mechanism. Okay, so that's all for today. We'll meet in the next session. Thank you so much for joining.